Three homeless men are in the garbage heap and find an abandoned baby, whose face turns red from tears. Inside the swaddling clothes was a note with "please" and a red key. Lao Jin plans to send it to the police station, but they can't support it themselves, let alone take care of a baby. But the transgender Ahua said, "This child. It's a gift from God." Fulfilling his dream of being a mother, Hannah named the baby Kyoko and was determined to take her home. A shelter built from waste, but Kyoko still cries non-stop. Ahua made a grimace to coax her, as if she was crying louder. Lao Jin helplessly picked up Qingzi and skillfully put it in his arms to comfort him, and he had done it many times at a glance. "I'll take you to the police right away." This was the best option, and Ahua also had to compromise. "I'll be sure to take her to the police station tomorrow. If we send her now, a happy Christmas will turn out to be the worst day of this child's life." Old Kim also gave in. He carefully examined Kyoko, and then changed into a clean diaper. Kyoko really stopped crying, and he asked Miyuki to go to the supermarket to buy hot water and milk powder. Miyuki is a runaway girl who is embarrassed to go out and beg because she is young and thin-skinned. Every time Ahua asked for an extra piece of food for her, Miyuki quickly bought the things she needed, and looking at Kyoko's way of drinking milk, Lao Jin thought of her daughter. If she was still alive, she would be 21 years old this year. When Lao Jin was young, he was a well-known cyclist, but his daughter was seriously ill. In order to raise money for the operation, a gangster friend suggested that the old Kim be faked, but was revealed to be disqualified. The daughter finally fell ill and died, and it didn't take long for the wife to go with her. Lao Jin couldn't stand the blow, lost hope in life, and began a wandering life. It snowed heavily all night, and when it was early the next morning, Ahua left with the child. Lao Jin and Miyuki followed the footprints and found Ahua, who slipped away quietly. He couldn't bear to be Qingzi, and he lived a life of being transferred everywhere since he was a child. "Because when I was a child, I was abandoned by my parents. I don't want her to live like this." She wanted to find Kyoko's parents and ask them their reasons in person. If it's acceptable, she'll choose to forgive. Forgive her parents, and my parents. Seeing Ahua's resolute attitude, Lao Jin and they had no choice but to compromise. But where to look for it? Miyuki thought of the key before, and they followed the number on it. I opened the corresponding locker, and inside was the packed luggage, clothes, keys, and photos. The young man and woman above should be Kyoko's parents. But the most important thing is the business card of the bar. There was a detailed address on it, and 3 people got on the tram and were ready to go to that bar. But the smell on their bodies was so strong that everyone covered their noses and stayed away from them with disgust. At this time, the road was closed by heavy snow, and the train was temporarily stopped. Miyuki casually looked out, but she met a man's eyes, and she hurriedly looked away. It was obvious to know the man and even jumped out of the car. Seeing this, Lao Jin and Ahua also hurriedly chased out. The 2 of them didn't say anything and kept up with Miyuki. It's just that they have been busy for most of the day, and their stomachs are already hungry, and it just so happens that there is a cemetery in front of them, so they decide to borrow something to eat. Lao Jin first bowed, then drank a bottle of wine, and Ahua also found other food. Luckily, baby supplies were also found. God must have loved Kyoko very much. After coming out of the cemetery, they found a man who had been crushed by a car. Lao Jin and Ahua teamed up to rescue the man from under the car. He came to sweep the grave alone, got out of the car and forgot to pull the handbrake, and was crushed under the car in a daze. The man took out his business card and money and thanked them for their help. "You can always come to me if you have difficulties." He turned out to be the boss of the gang, and Lao Jin's face changed instantly. Ahua asked for information about the bar, and the big guy took it and took a look. "Isn't this my son-in-law-to-be? It just so happened that his daughter got married today." The big guy took 3 people and went to the banquet together. The prospective son-in-law recognized the woman in the photo at a glance. Her name was Sachiko, and she used to be a red card in the store. But she quit her job after she became pregnant, and no one knows where she went. Ah Hua expressed his gratitude, but Lao Jin suddenly didn't know what was crazy. He picked up the wine bottle and showed a fierce gaze. If it weren't for the guy lying to me that he would make money, I wouldn't have to leave my wife and children. As he spoke, he was about to rush forward. In an instant, the waiter suddenly pulled out a pistol and aimed it at the unsuspecting boss. The prospective son-in-law blocked the bullet for him, and the waiter took advantage of the chaos and robbed Miyuki and Kyoko. Fleeing in a taxi, the two men quickly chased after him. But how can you run past the car? Fortunately, Ah Hua wrote down the license plate number. I was going to ask the taxi company, but Lao Jin told her to give up. We're just a bum, we've done what we need to do, and the police should do the rest. But Ah Hua is unwilling to give up. I didn't expect you to be so irresponsible. The two had a big fight and finally decided to go their separate ways. Ah Hua went to find them alone, and Lao Jin, who was walking on the road, met an old man who had fainted. Also a homeless, he sent the old man back to his residence. The old man was dying, and after drinking the wine he had been thinking about, he handed Lao Jin a pocket and left this world. Lao Jin was also about to leave, but was attracted by the posters on the wall. The building on it is the same as in the photo. He excitedly took the poster and was about to go out when he was stopped by a group of young people. We're here to do the year-end cleaning. They don't do their jobs all day long, they take pleasure in bullying the homeless, and they also say that they are cleaning up. Lao Jin was knocked to the ground by them and snatched the envelope, which was left by Qingzi's parents. Lao Jin endured the severe pain and desperately snatched back the letter. But he was so badly wounded that he passed out on the side of the road. And Miyuki, who was robbed, was brought home by the killer, and he didn't embarrass Miyuki. His wife also took the initiative to breastfeed Kyoko. The killer family is South American and has come here on a mission. Although the language is different, it is possible to communicate simply. Dad. It's the police. My dad is also a police officer. But he wanted to arrest me. It turned out that Miyuki had a stray cat named Angel, and her father quietly sent the angel away despite her consent. In the course of the argument, Miyuki accidentally stabbed her father. Frightened, he escaped from this home and began a wandering life. At this time, there was a voice outside, and Miyuki opened the window curiously. Aunt Hua. Based on the license plate number, she found the killer's approximate residence, and based on Kyoko's cry, she found Miyuki and them. It's great that you're okay. The two of them thanked each other and left together. But there is nowhere to go now, so Ah Hua takes Miyuki and goes to the bar where she worked before. Mama Sang didn't dislike Ah Hua and warmly invited them in. Unexpectedly, Lao Jin was also here. It turned out that after he fainted, he was rescued by the people at the bar. The three of them reunited with this wonderful fate, and her mother, Sang, asked Ah Hua curiously how to be with the homeless. Actually, so am I. It turned out that her lover, while taking a bath, stepped on soap and died. Since then, Ah Hua has been wandering. Because she was in the store before, she impulsively injured the customer, and she didn't have the face to come back. This time, it was really a last resort, so I came back to ask my mother Sang for help. It doesn't matter. This can be solved by spending money, you'll be safe. After resting all night, Lao Jin's injuries were almost healed. The three of them decide to set off and continue their search for Kyoko's parents. You can always come to me if you have difficulties. He also secretly stuffed a sum of money. According to the poster address, several people finally found the building. It's just that the house in the photo is now in ruins. I learned from a neighbor that the couple was not doing well. Sachiko's husband is addicted to gambling and thus has incurred a lot of foreign debts. Every day, people come to the door to ask for money, and they have to rely on Sachiko to earn money to support their family. In the end, they mortgaged their house and fled overnight, and their neighbors didn't know where they went. At this time, Ah Hua found that the address was written on the old calendar, and she rekindled her hope. I hurriedly rushed over by train, but along the way, Miyuki was unusually quiet. She was still holding a piece of newspaper in her hand, which was a missing person notice she had just found in the ruins. The angel, the cat's name, is coming home, so do you. Obviously, it was Dad who posted it. Miyuki's heart was a little shaken. She originally thought that her father was resentful of her. But in fact, Dad has been thinking about her, and Miyuki came to the phone booth and dialed the family number. But as soon as she heard her father's voice, she immediately hung up the phone. I'm sorry. Miyuki couldn't forgive herself, so she went back to Hana's side. Didn't take a few steps, Ah Hua vomited blood and fainted, and was rushed to the hospital. Fortunately, there is nothing serious, just need to rest well and supplement some nutrients. But they are all homeless, where do they get the money to recuperate? I can heal you, but it is up to the patients themselves to improve their lives. Lao Jin left helplessly, and with the money he had saved hard, he paid off Ah Hua's medical expenses. But when he saw the nurse's appearance clearly, Lao Jin suddenly froze in place. Dad. The girl in front of me turned out to be her own daughter. It turned out that old Kim had been lying, he was not a cyclist at all. Rather, it was a businessman who sold bicycles and ran away because he owed gambling debts. Abandoned his wife and daughter, and told a lie outside to win the sympathy of others. You must hate me. I've always wanted to see you. She and her mother never gave up looking for Lao Jin, and even went to check the corpse of the unknown man, and they still missed it after all. The daughter handed Lao Jin a piece of paper with a new phone address. Even if it's not possible now, I still hope that you can come back one day. Ah Hua couldn't listen to it anymore, pointed at Lao Jin and said, You are really a bad rotten person. Gambling luck is poor and ambition, wine is poor and unhygienic, and he lies everywhere to gain sympathy, and he will only escape when he encounters things. Will not take the initiative to take responsibility, and leave his wife and daughter to run away by himself. There is such a father, even a few lives are not enough. Ah Hua counted him down and left with Miyuki. Why say so much? But Ah Hua said that if he was forgiven in this way, it must be true love. When you are honest with each other and can still love each other, it is true family affection. She wanted to help Lao Jin confirm, but Miyuki seemed to be a little touched. Two people walking on the road suddenly encountered a woman who had committed suicide, and they hurriedly rescued the person. But after seeing her appearance clearly, Ah Hua directly raised her hand and slapped her hard. What the hell do you think? It turned out that the woman was the Sachiko they had been looking for, that is, Kyoko's biological mother. Ah Hua scolded her fiercely, but Yukiko cried and said that her husband took advantage of her inattention and secretly took the child away. I've been looking around for a long time. Looking at the grieving Sachiko, Ah Hua was finally relieved and handed Kyoko into her hands. You have to. Okay. Take good care of her. Ah Hua held back her tears and reluctantly said goodbye to Kyoko. But before he could go far, Lao Jin anxiously came over. That mom, it's an imposter, Sachiko is an imposter. It turned out that he happened to be in the hospital and saw the news of the baby abduction. And the kidnapped baby is the Kyoko they picked up. Lao Jin was very puzzled, shouldn't it be abandonment, how did it become a kidnapping? According to the address of the old calendar, Lao Jin found their current residence, and her husband was the only one in the house. From his mouth, Lao Jin got the terrible truth. The baby was stolen by Sachiko, and stealing the child is not a trivial matter, and the husband was worried that he would be found out in the future, so he secretly threw the child away. A few people who knew the truth hurriedly listened to the cry and went to find Sachiko's figure. When she is finally found in the park, a chase ensues, with Sachiko snatching a van and Kim riding behind her. He didn't run away like before, and tried his best to stop Sachiko, and was almost run over by a big truck, but fortunately, there was no danger. In the end, the truck lost control and crashed into the abandoned building, but fortunately no one was injured. Ahua and the others also rushed over, but Sachiko took advantage of the chaos and ran to the rooftop with the child in her arms. Miyuki also hurriedly chased after her, and found Sachiko standing on the edge of the rooftop in despair, but she knew it very well in her heart. This child is not her own, and her baby has died in the womb before it was born. She couldn't accept this reality, so she stole someone else's baby to deceive herself. The illusion that the child is still alive, Miyuki is on the side to persuade her. You should know how painful it is to lose a child. But Sachiko stubbornly believes that as long as she has a child, her husband will be able to be a new person, and the family will not be broken. She is unwilling to face the reality, hiding in her fantasies, and even wants to hold Qingzi and reincarnate together to change this miserable life. At the moment of turning, her husband appeared just in time. Sachiko, don't think about it, come back to me, everything is my fault, please don't die. But Sachiko said coldly, I'll go down and wait for you first. With that, he jumped off. Fortunately, Miyuki caught her in time. Kyoko wants to see her parents. Sachiko finally came to her senses. Handed over the child to Miyuki, but Miyuki also reached the limit, thanks to Lao Jin and Ahua, she pulled them in time. But the baby went upside down. Ahua jumped off without thinking, caught the falling baby, and grabbed the advertising banner. At that moment, he came to earth like an angel. Maybe Kyoko really is a child blessed by God. While recuperating in the hospital, Miyuki accidentally turned out the pocket left by the old grandfather. It turned out to be a lottery ticket that won the first prize. And Kyoko also returned to her parents. The two thanked them very much and asked the police for a referral. We'd like to ask them to name the little girl. The policeman was invited to knock on the door, but saw himself, the daughter he had missed for a long time. Dad. Master Satoshi Kon once said that Tokyo Godfathers is his favorite work. This is a heartwarming story made up of countless coincidences. While helping Kyoko and finding her parents, the three homeless men also find their lost selves. The city is sometimes very cold, but a kind heart can always be warm and touching.